with 2 top 5 matchups today that ties the most in the poll era. In the SEC Championship, the 8th rematch from the regular season. Teams that won in the regular season, 5-2. Coming in, and 2 guys who will have their teams square off in Atlanta today. Kirby Smart from Georgia, Steve Sarkisian from Texas, kind enough to join us on the morning of the game. Guys, I want to start with this. When you play in a rematch, how do you balance maybe some adjustments you want to make as opposed to anticipating what adjustments they might make?
I think that's a great question. I don't think you overthink it. I think you try to do simple better. Block tackle is what it comes down to. Everybody wants to make it about the scheme, but a lot of times it comes down to the players, not the scheme.
No, I think hit the nail on the head. You know, we always use the analogy. We never want to get paralysis by analysis. You overanalyze, then your players aren't performing the way they can play. So take in the information, then you try to prepare them to go play.
Yeah, well, I think they're both bullshitting us, but...
By the way, exactly. If you're contributing to the swear jars at home, that's 2 for Nick so far.
SEC championship.
Coach, what you said.
Let me just say this. I only say that because we played in a lot of big games together, these 2 guys being on our staff. And these 2 guys were the best I've ever been around at getting a team ready to play in a big game. I mean, these 2 guys are fantastic, both of them. So I guess my simple question is how did the preparation go for your team, Sark, and then we'll go to Kirby on getting ready for this game?
No, I really think it went well. Again,
no BS.
No BS. You know, we played them. What was that? We played them like 5 or 6 weeks ago, right? And so, how we prepared for that game, how we performed, and then what the body of work did look like since. And we've changed some, they've changed some. And then you try to throw all that back together, and then you get your guys to try to understand a plan and execute. But again, at this point of the season, this is 5 straight weeks for us. This is 9 straight SEC games. You're managing not only the physical aspect of the team, but the mental aspect of the team to make sure we got the right mental intensity and focus and urgency to go compete and perform.
Yeah, I agree with Sark. There is a mental fatigue factor that is there that you're concerned about as a coach. And everybody's like, well, it's the SEC Championship. It's the Texas rematch. The players have played in a lot of games at this point. They are tired. So it's all about reaching deep. What do you have inside you? I think the second time you play somebody, you got to be careful. You don't overthink it, and you don't think too much about it. I think we've had good practices. We both came off major rivalry games, both really hard physical games. So it's going to be an exciting moment. I'm really glad to get to play in this venue because this is one of the best in college football.
Yeah, this venue is fantastic. It's been an honor to be a part of this for the last few years with College GameDay, and I wish you would both tell us your game plans and kind of tip each other off to add a little extra juice to this thing. But Coach Sark, I'll talk to you. Obviously, this is Texas's first year in the SEC. You're the reigning Big 12 champs, which is West Virginia's conference going forward, as you know. But I would like to talk about your first matchup with them. First year in the SEC. That was the first big game in the SEC. Georgia, who, if they go on to win another national championship, this will be considered a dynastic run for them. They come into Austin, and to be honest, they beat the hell out of your offensive line. Yep. Sacks all over. I think 7 sacks, I believe. There was 4 turnovers, 5 turnovers, both Quinn and Arch. What did that game do to your team, you think, whenever you look back on it going forward after that? And was that the welcome to the SEC type thing that people talk about?
Well, first of all, I give Kirby a lot of credit. They came ready to play, and from the jump, that opening kickoff, they were ready to go. We had an opportunity to see some momentum, didn't take advantage of it with a turnover, and then it was short field after short field. We were turning the ball over, and they were capitalized on it. So I think getting back to playing sound football is the first part. We're always better when we got a little bit of balance, and we became one-dimensional. And he's got some cats that can, or some dogs that can go get that quarterback. You know, so we learned that real quick in that game as well.
Hey guys, for both of you, Kirby, start with you. Just what makes Sark? What's the book on Sark? Like, what over the years, what makes him such a good play caller? And Sark, maybe you talk about the book on Kirby over these years as a defense.
Yeah, I think it starts with the quarterback play. He has a great mind. He played quarterback, so he understands defenses. He's coached in the National Football League. He has great experience. He knows how to recruit. He gets good players. So when you start looking at his offensive schemes, they're really, really good at attacking what you do. They have answers for what you do. He has every protection known to man. They get in bunches. They move things. There's a lot of window dressing that can confuse your kids. We can go over his route structure 100 times, but we don't know how he's going to present it. right? He's going to present it a different way. And sometimes you catch a kid one step, and one step's all it takes before a guy's behind you. So he's always done that well. Even the years at Alabama we went against him, it was really tough.
That's great.
You know, I think from Kirby's perspective, one, there's a lot of defense. You know, this isn't like, oh, okay, we're going to get over quarters defense and away you go. You know, it's a multitude of defenses, a multitude of fronts, and then they take away the things that you do well. And they present a picture to the quarterback that can look like one thing, and it changes at the snap and it's something else. I think the other side of it is their ability to collapse the pocket when they know you're going to throw the football and play really sticky coverage in the back end. And so the pressure packages to go along with the multitude of fronts and defenses to take away what you do well is always really challenging. But he's done it at a high level for a long, long time.
What was your takeaway from your team? What did you learn about your team from that game? I'd like to start with you first, Sark.
Yeah, what I learned about our guys is the resiliency that we have as a football team. You know, we went into the locker room at halftime down 23-0, and that's not where you want to be.
Right.
And I'm doing an interview with Holly Rowe, and she's thinking, what do you need to change? I said, everything. we're losing 23-0. It's at half. You know, we got to show some fight here.
Yeah.
And to come out of the locker room and to cut the lead to 23-15. And we had them 3rd and 10 on their own 11, and Carson hits the big in cut, and they run the flea flicker and hit the tight end, and they seize momentum back. But I was really proud of our team kind of regrouping at halftime, and I think that resiliency has been needed here this last month of the season. To learned a lot about our guys that way, because it had been pretty smooth sailing up until that point.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for us, we had not played well in a big game on the road. You know, our first opportunity to do that, we played terrible in the first half, so we wanted to start fast and have a big first half. It happened for us, but it didn't happen necessarily the way I thought it might. People forget that the explosive play battle between us, no matter how lopsided you say that game was, it was 7-7. So it shows you that the turnovers were a huge factor. If it's 30-15, but the explosive plays were 7-7.
Yeah.
They are a very explosive football team.
Yeah.
Sark, your first year in this conference, and a lot of our discussion for the rest of the show is going to be about sorting out the college football playoff picture relative to handling schedules. Going through it here as a head coach for the first time, what's the difference? Is there really a difference in playing the SEC schedule?
Well, it's a grind. I'll say that. I think it's a grind physically, it's a grind mentally, and it's a grind going on the road, you know, in some of these hostile environments. You know, in this last month, we played at Arkansas and at A&M, both rival games for us, which were very difficult environments to go play in. I think what happens is when you're not in a conference, you know, we were in the Big 12 a year ago, and we had to go to Alabama for one game in the SEC, and your kids can get up and you can pour into that. The challenge here is you got to do it 8 straight weeks, and you got to do it the next week, the next week, and the next week, and you can get physically beat up and you can get mentally beat up because of the challenge that you have week in and week out. That's what this conference, that's the difference. You can do it once. You know, anybody can get up for it one time. It's can you do it for 8 straight weeks, time and time again, to keep yourself at the top of the standings.
Rejuvenated by playing in the championship game today. Steve Sarkisian, Kirby Smart, best of luck to you guys. Thanks for being with us. Head coach of the Longhorns and the Georgia Bulldogs will continue to break down this game, look at it from a lot of different angles.